This is your daily market review for Thursday, November 7th, 2024. Let's go. Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent. This is your daily market review, Thursday, FOMC day, November 7th, 2024. Interesting action. The Fed's cut 25 basis points. The bond market barely reacted. Tech led up. The IWM lagged. Financials lagged big time. Seemed like, again, if you follow the channel, watched what we've posted about how to trade around the FOMC days. Again, it's on the YouTube channel. I know. Check it out. That the day after the FOMC meeting can be very interesting. And today was interesting to say the least. Definitely had a continuation from the red wave. Again, the market is anticipating certain things. As we've talked about, economic data falling off a cliff. If Trump and friends do end up cutting spending dramatically, you're going to see more pain in the market. However, near term, be careful. It's very clear we're going into a recession. It's just how the market's going to react. I apologize, I got something in my throat. Can we continue higher? Or is the action a trap? Just either way, we've talked about this over and over. Risk management is the key. Whether you like metals, gold, Bitcoin, whatever, the markets, do yourself a favor, roll up your stops. And if you're short and you're entering at great prices, again, define your risk. Do what you got to do. So if you're new to the channel, I'll check out the Discord room, link description below. If you'd like to chat, use the Calendly link. Let me know I can help. Posting some trades on Twitter. I mean, it's really interesting, right? Because we're in a recession. It's different this time, right? Employment usually a full-time drops going into a recession. We've talked about that. I mean, it's nothing new here. Everyone sees it. It's just how's the market react? Is the market getting excited because Trump's taken over, right? That's the question. I'm not saying that it won't probably be higher in time, but there's some massive amounts of potential spending that's going to cut. We've talked about how the GDP was basically sustained on Ukraine spending. People don't like to hear that and don't talk about it, but that's the truth. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, just be careful. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I appreciate it. Again, here we go. It's tons of videos on how to trade. Please check them out. Use a little search bar. You can check out what you're trying to look for. Potentially have a video on it. If it's not, and you would like a video on a certain topic, I would love to make it for you. I don't mind. The more education, the better. Again, sometimes people have questions I'm not even really sure they might even have. So far disconnected from a beginning trader. Check out thetradingagent.com. Turn profits into properties and passive income. Again, recommended reading. You know the deal. So CME watch tool, we said it was 99.8%, which is essentially a lock. The next meeting's where it's going to get interesting. Right? Because here we are. Are we going to get another cut? Again, I mean, at this point, it's going to be hard for the Feds to really justify cutting more. I mean, again, we talked about economic stuff, but inflation. I mean, if you read the remarks, you looked at the inflation rate, you saw CPI, PPI, all that stuff in all economic data. I mean, with inflation, yeah, they're in the 2% range, but they're not below it. We've not got negative inflation. And so that's the hardest thing for them, is they're kind of stuck in between a hard rock and a hard place. Bitcoin breaking out, as we talked about, potentiality, high volume at the highs. It looks like what gold went through, a big choppy top. Is it breaking out, or is this just going to be a trap? And this is the thing, again, people who have Bitcoin, trade it, whatever, I don't make the rules here. I would just be watching action. If you get back under 73,500, I'd be on red alert for a bull trap and coming right back down. Because again, if the market does pull back, which we anticipate at some point, I mean, it was going into it, and then obviously you had the flip of the squeeze, which, hey, not surprised. Again, the market does things that doesn't make sense all the time. And in the near term, you have to think about it like, okay, if you get the liquidation events, you do get the issues within the markets, the economic turmoil. Again, they throw the baby out with the bathwater. We've talked about that. And so again, is Bitcoin immune? I would say it's not. It hasn't shown to be. Again, to me, it's very much of a leveraged risk-on trade, in my opinion. Oil, holding the range lows. We've talked about it. I don't think there's that much downside to oil in a recession. because we have supply constraints. Natty gas, we like this one. I mean, I'd love to see a one handle on. I remember the futures rollover, so it's probably, I don't know, I'd be watching down here in the mid to low, I would say probably lower 2.2s, right? Dollar rallied huge yesterday. Coming back to earth a little bit today, right back into the range. Not surprising. Again, and this is another thing about gold, Bitcoin, all this stuff. I mean, as much as people think Trump is all crypto, there is one thing that Trump is loyal to, and that's King Daddy Dollar. He always has been a fan of the dollar. So just keep that in mind. Keep an eye on it. TLT, again, you would think if the Feds were, and we talked about yesterday potentially being a bottom, you got a little bit of a reprieve in the yields. Again, I would make sure you get over the 93 level before you really trust it. Okay? Be careful. VIX holding up. Sorry, not holding up. Sorry, I was looking at another chart. Not holding up, but holding around the 15 level. Worth a watch, right? We talked about the day after the FOMC meeting. That's a pretty extreme move, y'all. 23 to 15 in 5 days. I mean, essentially 20. I mean, think about 25% haircut in the VIX. The VIX haircut city, right? Back at the 200-day. Watch for bottoming. Again, it's very close. SPY, 595. I mean, people are talking about 600 now. Okay, we'll see. I mean, again, we talked about, is this a breakout or a trap? That's the question you have to ask yourself, right? And if it's a breakout, what's the upside? I mean, I personally would, I mean, again, if you do the year to date, and this has been an amazing year. Is there any profits going to be taken? I mean, this might be one of the better years ever in a recession. So we'll see. Again, it feels very like, I'm trying to think of like time frames. It feels very like .com bubble-ish, right? And again, if you look at the Kate ratios and the GDP to market valuations, yeah, they've never been higher. Okay, we'll see if it sustains. If it does, hey, you know what? That's the thing, right? You trade what you got to do. Again, there's always going to be pullbacks. There's always going to be blow-offs. There's always going to be this action. QQQ, again, got a little more pumpage today. Credit where credit's due. I mean, if you go look, yeah, show the monthly real quick. All right. We're right at above the 1.618. I'd be curious to see if this is going to wick out at some point. Just keep an eye on it. Just keep an eye on it. IWM lagged all day today. Had a huge up move yesterday. So, I mean, again, don't, you know, it's one of those things where, okay, yeah, credit where credit's due. I mean, you pop 7% and you pull back 0.376%, right? Like, that's not the end of the world. So I'm not going to say, oh, that's the freaking top. No, but I would say just keep an eye on this. You have a multi-day range. You need in multiple dojis back-to-back at high volume. So you need to continue the rampage. And I would even say, like, as long as it holds this low too, it's still bullish. We'll see. Again, be careful. Define your risk. DIA, Doji today. Gold, we talked about oversold near term. Here we said could pop at the Fed. Here you go. 20-day. I mean, again, I personally, it's tough to really trust this stuff because I've seen what happens. We talked about oversold. Cool. Here it comes right back into the range areas. Keep an eye on it. Be safe on it. Right? Sorry, GDX. Did I just have the GDX? Yeah. Sorry, silver. Yeah, pouncing back. GDX. Again, all of them. Right? We talked about like 44 down to 38 pretty quick as gold went nowhere. Okay, that's cool. It makes sense why they would charge right back into this stuff. Keep an eye on it, right? Watch for the gap fill. I'd be watching the 50-70 area. Again, I personally have seen miners get absolutely destroyed when the market does what it does. But we'll see. Again, this is what's so hard, right? We talked about all the put action in miners at the highs. Keep an eye on it. Geopolitical risk all of a sudden going to just disappear. That's why I'm curious to see how Bitcoin does. AG, backtest the trend line. Not surprised it bounces. Newmont, right? This thing again. How is this not near the highs? Hits 200-day. Okay, cool. Got a great reference. If you want to long it, man, it makes sense. Define the risk. Pass. Chopping around. Man, some of these are wide and loose. Be careful. Taiwan Semi, nice bounce back today. Backtesting trend line. We talked about all this stuff. Again, this is what's so hard. I mean, who expected a red wave? I expected them to win, but I didn't think they'd crush. No, crushed, they did. And so this is where, again, if you went long, sometimes as we talked about, if you went long Tesla, you went long certain names, tech, right? MicroStrategy, right? You believed that, again, you believed in some of the names that would make sense going higher. You're doing pretty good. Taiwan Semi, again, back testing the trend line. Again, I still think semis are the best short, in my opinion. Micron, I mean, especially if you got the references, which you're getting. AM Dizzle, right? These have been lagging. I mean, laggards lag for a reason. We talked about AMD. I mean, said this the other day. I mean, shit. Monday was like, man, these candles are getting on Tuesday, getting really tight. Not surprised by a little bouncy bounce. NVIDIA, okay, to me, the biggest Ponzi scheme that we'll probably figure out at some point. It's like Epstein files. At some point, everyone will see how NVIDIA is cooking the books, in my opinion. And again, if you go look at the data, it just kind of is what it is. But it doesn't mean it can't continue higher. But I was just thinking to myself, like, there is a little bit of a channel forming here. You're at the range highs. If you were bullish, I'd be raising stops. I'd just keep it simple. Again, I personally think a $3 trillion market cap for semiconductors, that's go joining the Dow. It's very similar to Intel when it hit its market cap peak, joining the Dow in 99. Just be careful. SMCI, all over the place, right? We talked about it potentially bottoming post earnings, right? I mean, this thing is just... And now again, I mean, fundamentally, it's not like bottoming from the fundamentals. More of it's just like it's just oversold, right? Like, here you go, 50 month. Keep it simple, stupid, right? I mean, again, if you want to play the counter trend, makes sense. Intellectual property. Congrats if you held on to this. We talked about, again, I personally think, again, you're betting on Trump to take over and help out and get a bailout for a $110 billion company, whatever it is now. I mean, what's the upside? Maybe 30? I don't know. Fill the gap. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, a lot of people have hope in it. And again, this is why I hate hope. Like, trade the leaders. Just, SMH, again, we talked about if you short it up here, man, bounce back and you're getting references, right? Just keep it simple, stupid. Adobe, this one had a freaking huge pop yesterday. Opens high, closes in the candle. Just watching. Apple, saw the puts coming into the stock today, but interesting enough, I mean, we talked about the 50-day. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You could argue we could come back to the range highs. And this is where it's a probability-based game. I mean, what's the best place to short? You don't know, and that's what Jesse Livermore's favorite line in trading, and it's probably mine as well. You don't know until you bet it. You don't know. I mean, if I was going to short 230, makes sense. Amazon, a lot of calls coming out, a lot of popping. Keep an eye on this. I mean, it's been a pretty solid move. Could it digest? Yeah, makes sense. Meta. Zucker kissing the ring, held the 50-day, filled the gap. Some nice 2-day moves. I mean, again, I'd be personally, if I'm watching the market, I would not be surprised by a tomorrow pullback, a Monday, Tuesday chop, and then either proceed higher or we're going to pull back more. CRM, gapping up. Guggenheim, talked about this one popping on earnings, coming right back. Wow, man, will the gap fill? 185 area, 184s. Microsoft held the 405, right? Okay. Your guess is good as mine about where it's going to land and where these things potentially start taking a break. Good trading. I mean, it is what it is. NDAQ, hey, look at that, starting to lag. All right. We talked about this big ass candle. Again, I personally think, again, if you do the math on how all this works, the money flow, no one's going to be buying tech. Everyone's going to be buying the inputs. It's just like in the 90s when you went into a .com bubble. What did money rotate into? Again, you needed to build out the infrastructure. It wasn't like the companies weren't going to be around. 280. Man, nailed that one. Jay Solstice was talking about the call option today. People were buying the 80 calls that ended tomorrow. I think they're buying them for 70 cents and they got up to $7 or $8. Man, that great trade. Appreciate it again sharing this post. Man, that is a hard one to guess. I don't like the wick and the doji. Man, those are just huge moves. I mean, again, personally, if you're trading around your positions, you got to just manage it. I mean, that's the thing. If you own the stock, man, you could be crushing, just selling premium, buying, and then funding calls, and then selling premium, buying calls later, right? Netflix, is it breaking out? We'll see. Keep an eye on it. Again, I don't know why anyone would buy this stock, but hey, you know, people do what they do. Roblox holding up. Man, that doji at the high, a little suspect. I'm not a fan of this kind of action. When you have these tight ranges, you're talking multi-day ranges, then you doji at the high on light volume, it just feels like it's not ready. So typically what happens is it pulls back or chops. PAN-W, back at the range highs, worth watching. 2-day range, very simple. TSLA, Again, a lot of people took the calls on this. Makes sense. I mean, again, I personally like the short now again. It got over the old gap, but remember what we're getting into. Just keep that in mind. Now, long term, short term, your guess is as good as mine. I personally like the risk reward to short. Again, if I'll be wrong, you'll be wrong. Again, I've been wrong. Insight, here's one that we've been, talking about. Like, this thing is going to be a buyout target. You're welcome. You're welcome. Nice work. Keep an eye on it. Palantir, doing some deals with Amazon. A lot of puts came out today on the stock. Interesting action. We said 3-day rule in effect. Let me move this up. Right? Doji. Keep an eye on it. This maybe this is what the market looks like tomorrow. Gap, Doji. That's another thing too. McDonald's, E. coli, chop, nothing much. DKNG, talked about oversold, bouncing. Talked about the 200-day worth of watch. That looks interesting to me. Airbnb, earnings after the close. And let's see, what are we doing? On the 10-minute. 145. Man, all over the place. Oh, oops, I just closed it. Give me 2 seconds. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, all over the place. Keep an eye on it. Not saying we know for sure what's going to happen on that one, but today's action on it, man, like, someone got excited, and then they pulled it back after hours. Keep an eye on that. Costco, been holding on, just kind of basing out. Held the 100-day back to the range highs. Wick, we'll see. Starbucks, we talked about this one being very obvious that it was digesting the new CEO. Big tight range, kind of dead money. Imagine if you were selling calls and puts on this. You're collecting money. FedEx finally broke the downtrend, which again, we were looking to short, but this is where this is what I tell people. I'm like, yeah, I can have ideas, but I can read the room. I don't go, well, it looks like the market's just going to turn over today. I'm like, no, if the Feds are talking and Powell wants to keep his job, is he going to be talking heavy negative? Probably not. Watching this area now. Keep an eye on it. Caterpillar, this one had a freaking huge rip yesterday. Inside day, 2-day range. Keep an eye on it. DEs, we talked about, right? Held around the 50-day, popping back to the range highs. Nucor, again, another one that had a monster day yesterday. Okay. Multi-2-day. You can trade these ranges. Keep an eye on them. Letter X, worth watching. Right? This is supposedly get bought out by the end of the year. We'll see if that happens or not. We will see if that slide in. VALE, keeping an eye on this one, right? Again, we like commodities long term, just big basing patterns. Arrow, talked about, is probably overdue. Said put an arrow, is like probably due to bounce. There you go. 16 to 18. Man, that's a pretty solid trade. CCJ, here you go. Another one, right? Like commodities. All right, they pull back, get bought. CF, these ag names got pulled back pretty quick. Okay, keep an eye on them. Again, we like ag long term. I think there's going to be massive demand for ag in long term. And TR, people were like, how? Especially if all these people are not going to have children. It's like, no, they'll have children. Stop it. That whole crap is a bunch of baloney. Baloney sandwich. AA, again, we like aluminum. I hope it's not breaking out. Again, I personally just patient. XLF had a monster day yesterday. 2-day range. Watch it. Again, this is a weird formation, but if this was the chart was upside down, you might be thinking this is a bottom. Could it be a top? JP Morgan, right? Was up, 30 points yesterday or something stupid? Okay, keep an eye on it. You got 2-day ranges everywhere. Morgan Stanley, right? 2-day ranges. You see, you can go with Bank of America. Not so much as a 2-day. You can see the 44. Goldman Sachs, I got up to 595 or 600 yesterday. Inside day, not much to say on that one. KRE, here we go, though, where it gets interesting, right? Big up day. Closes up the lows. But as long as you hold 63.60s, it can't go that bad, right? XBI, look at that doji at the range highs. Again, you have big volume, then a doji. I remember just talking about, I'm not a fan of that formation if I'm a bull, because that doji can end up being a pivot point. Keep an eye on it. Jets, close at the low of the day. 2-day range. This is kind of a repeating pattern. XHB against housing. 50-day, 20-day. Said this, I don't know, probably 2 weeks ago. I said if it bounces, that's where I'd be looking. There you are. Solar got the bounce before the election, and then Sedge 15, you're welcome. Said it was going to go down here. ENPH. Uh-oh. 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 Red alert. Red alert. First solar. Again, I mean, you can't really like solar if oil prices are coming down and you have a GOP candidate in charge. I don't think they're going to be pumping out tons of credits for this stuff. We'll see. HYG. You got to be high out of your mind about corporate debt. Nice bounce, though. Oversold, I guess, technically. Oil, chopping around. Not really much to say on it. UNG, hate this product. Again, oil 3-day range. KOLD, we like the short in the 80s, right? Keep an eye on it. Maybe even 90s. XOPs, we talked about. Nice big up day yesterday. Not surprised. It gave it a little bit of a reprieve and chop around. CVE, again, we like this trade in the 15-16 area. Makes sense. Valero, gasoline names had a nice bounce yesterday. 2-day ranges abound. Again, you should call this the 2-day range trade. 2-day range, ExxonMobil, 2-day range. Again, no one's really pumping it through. No one's taking a lower. It's just certain names have let up. Indexes made new highs. Keep an eye on it. Will the names individually follow? Occidental, 2-day. It's not Tuesday. It's 2-day range. EQT held up pretty well, actually. This one made a new higher high. Is it breaking the downtrend? Because, again, if it is, it probably could get right back to 44. And Flex LNG, last but not least, I am a big fan of natural gas exporting long-term, in my opinion. Okay, do you have any questions? Don't hesitate to reach out. Always here to help. Again, if you're looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate, and you don't hit me up, I don't know what the hell, why not? What's the worst going to do? You get 2 agents for the price of 1, and you're going to get a conversation with me. All right, y'all have an amazing evening. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, the PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.